Today, there's a rule of thumb of 5 feet per second in cleaning piping. And really where that comes from is if you have a pipe that goes up in the air and across the top of a room and turns and comes back down, somewhere close to 5 feet per second is fast enough that it will shove all the air out of the top of that piping. So you can imagine the liquid going up fully floods that vertical pipe, but when you turn and go across the top, you could end up with just a river across the bottom of that pipe and then a waterfall falling down the other side and still air in the top. Well, you leave air in the top, that means the top of that pipe is dirty. So a little less than 5 feet per second, it'll shove all that air out. So that's really where that concept and kind of because all the time I have people say, well, I have to have 5 feet per second, and kind of my own curiosity of them is like, oh, well, why? Well, that's what you CIP at. You know, they have no history of that. Well, but that's the reason. You can fully remove the air out of a system, assuming there's not horrible dead legs in the piping system. So piping, you try to get 5 feet per second. Really, if you start getting over 10 feet per second, then you got some problems. At around 10 feet per second, you start using a lot more horsepower to push the liquid. And at those speeds, it's hard on equipment. So a valve closes with fluid passing through it at 10 feet or more per second, it's more likely to cause a problem and damage the valve. So that between 5 and 10 feet per second is like your ideal cleaning for piping. So most people just say 5. And I've also, just my observation too, from 5 to 10 feet per second, you don't see a significant improvement in cleaning. So 5 tends to be the rule. Get in a little bit larger sizes, say 4-inch, 7 probably does work better. That's piping. Every piece of equipment in a system needs to be thought about a little bit in and of itself. What does it take to clean that particular piece of equipment? The key takeaway I want to make there is you really need to look at the pieces that you're putting in the system and see if they need something different and adapt. We organizationally have folks that just inherently understand what needs to happen to get them cleaned. If those techniques have never been taught to you and shown to you, I don't know if you would ever just come to a conclusion correctly on best practice.